you to another edition of State Champs HangTime Michigan, the Hoops podcast on what's happening in hoops in the Mitten. We will have a State Champs Indiana HangTime that should be up now by the time you're viewing this. So you can check it out if you want to see what's going on in Indiana. Obviously, what we're doing here is talking about what's happening in Michigan. HangTime Michigan is sponsored by Lawrence Technological University. Follow the men's and women's NAIA basketball program and recruit yourself at ltuathletics.com. Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser is simply the easiest and best fundraising program. Go to doughraiser.com for details. And the MHSA is also a sponsor of HangTime. Looking for scores, stories, district brackets. All of it is at MHSAA.com. And the MHSA needs referees. I think we all know that. The info for you to get started is at highschoolofficials.com. So that is that. I am Lorne Plant, Scott Burnstein, and TJ Kelley here to get us going. Dan Young, Matt Maurer will be along a little later. We also have a conversation with Roseville head coach Hassan Nizam. Is that how you pronounce it?
Nizzy.
Coach Niz,
yeah,
baby.
Exactly.
He's got Roseville rolling.
Yes, exactly. And that is our main event for State Champs this week. So that is coming up just a little bit later. So results and reaction is what we always start with. We'll start with Scott that you had a chance to see this week. North Farmington defeats Farmington 41-39 Monday.
Yeah, I really like North Farmington. They're a real sleeper. I mean, before the season, I had Farmington ranked ahead of North Farmington. I thought Farmington was going to be a real force in the OA White. They don't really have any signature wins right now. They got a great three-guard set in Tariq Shepard, Jaden Akins, and Tariq Humes. Unfortunately, that really hasn't translated to having a great season, at least so far through the halfway point. North Farmington, on the other hand, was a team that I wasn't really thinking much of. There wasn't a lot of buzz around them going into the regular season, and they've really, in my opinion, exceeded expectations. They got a great front court led by a real intriguing prospect in center Yusuf Jihad, 6'9", didn't have a ton of minutes last year. This is his first year that he's starting and playing the whole game. Just got an offer from Greg Campion, Oakland University, averaging about 15 points, 10 rebounds a game. He's long, he's athletic, he's got nice touch.
And Todd DeGoshen always has his team.
Yeah, the No-Go's always have their guys on point. So with Jihad leading the way with a double-double of 16 points and 10 rebounds, they beat Farmington in the Battle of Farmington, if you will. Yeah. On the road, Justice Clark, their junior point guard, has been starting since his freshman year, hit a game-winning free throw with about a second left. And North Farmington's only going to get better. They're 7-3 or 8-3 right now. They're missing 3 starters that all should be back by the end of the month. One is a really nice sophomore, Deion Hayes, whose brother Jamal Hayes is also a starter in the backcourt. Another is their starting wing, Shoron Graham, who's really athletic and shoot the ball. One of the best dunkers I've seen this year.
Yeah.
He hurt his shoulder, but last week he should be back. He's got to sit out about a week. And then they got a transfer coming in from Farmington Harrison, Eddie Lenton, who's about 6'3" wing. Is really gonna help them, inject them with some offense and some length. So if you're Farmington, you got to put the pieces back together. They're beating bad teams, but they're losing to good teams. So that's what Farmington is right now. And then last night I was out at an LVC battle, Lakes Valley Conference, Walled Lake Northern and Lakeland. The Battle of Bogey Lake Road. The two high schools really sit
real close,
really next to each other.
Yeah, I know.
On Bogey Lake Road. Walled Lake Northern is a real kind of feel-good story. They're 11-0 right now. School has only been around for about 15 years. Has never started the season 11-0. Johnny Jokai doing an excellent job. One of the really up-and-coming young coaches, and cut his teeth at Livonia Franklin as a head coach, had been an assistant all over the place. This is the type of guy that he's a grinder. He's the kind of guy that he's a gym rat.
Right.
He's coaching AAU. He was big in the development of Yante Mayton at Bloomfield Hills back in the day. And he's just doing a really nice job. They got a very impressive front court at Walled Lake Northern. 3 guys that all are about 6'5", 6'6". Jack McGuire, Andre Price, and Kevin Robertson. Now, Kevin Robertson is only a sophomore and just very versatile. I love this kid's upside. Last night he had to move to the point because their point guard, Troy Lattimore, was out for the game with an illness. And Robertson and I have not really ever played the point before, and he can handle the ball, and he can run a team, and he had 12 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I ranked him in my top 30 in Oakland County to start the year, and I got some people kind of scratching their head at me, and I said, well, just wait, and you'll see that this is a playmaker. This is a difference maker. And, he's been a real catalyst for this Wall Lake Northern team, as has been Andre Price, who's kind of like a walking, talking double-double, a guy that's just, you can just pencil in at least 12 points, 12 rebounds every game. He had 14-12 last night. And
you like them to take
I like
the
Wall Lake.
conference?
I think Wall Lake Northern's going to win that conference.
Okay.
In fact, it's possible that team goes 19-1, 18-2, dare I say 20-0.
Right.
I don't know. Taking into account they could have that gaudy record, I don't know if this is a team that can make a run to Breslin.
Right.
But I think that they have a really good chance at winning the second district title in school history, and putting a scare into some people in the regionals.
Building it.
Yeah.
So one of the games you're going to get to be able to check out on State Champs, not only on this Sunday at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit, we also have it up on our social media platforms and our website, statechampsnetwork.com. From the west side of the state, Hudsonville and East Kentwood got together on Tuesday. Wasn't even close. Hudsonville goes on the road, wins 71-47. Big statement. I mean, just you throw up 71 against anybody, let alone on the road in hostile territory. That's impressive.
Yeah, the teams, let's say this, the larger schools, the Division Ones that I've noticed in the OK Red, in the OK as a whole.
Yeah.
Outside of Forest Hills Northern, I think that they might be the only undefeated Division One team. We've got Muskegon, who just lost the other night to Reeves Puffer, and I'm not sure when the last time that happened.
Yeah.
And then you have teams like West Ottawa who are rebuilding. It's very much up in the air, and whoever might wind up coming out of the Breslin or to the Breslin out of the west side of the state is going to be. Might be Petoskey, it might be Traverse City, one of the Traverse City schools, or something like that. But Hudsonville, that was a great one for them.
They got a nice inside-outside combo. Max Perez in the backcourt, a pace setter, a gritty kind of coach on the floor type. He can also shoot it. He can play make really well.
Get to the basket.
Get to the rack.
Yeah.
And then they got a very underrated big guy. I think Zach Moore is his name.
It's like 6'6" maybe.
Yeah.
Like more of a like football guy.
I don't know. I've been kind of reading about him on the west side of the state as a guy
Okay.
that's really having a really good season so far, and I know he's played really well as of late. So when you got the perimeter game and you mix it with some toughness on the blocks, you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, Perez kind of plays beyond his years, and it's going to be fun watching him over the next year or two. At the same time, he's 5'10". Sometimes college coaches, they fall in love with certain height and stuff like that. But you look at a guy like Perez, who's just, he's a producer.
Yeah.
He makes teammates better. He's a starter last year. As a freshman, so we'll see.
Zach Moore's 6'6".
And I would say, just in general, we've talked a little bit more about West Side teams this season than maybe we have in years past. So, I think that whole area is proving its worth.
Yeah, it's good. I think let's say this: it's when you can kind of have the opportunity to piggyback off of some of the Division I guys, some of the bigger name guys. And then you also have success with West Ottawa. And I'm talking about like some of the bigger name guys like Xavier Tillman 2 years ago. And then you've got Marcus Bingham, James Beck, and some of those other guys, have had a lot of success. Or let's say there's notable names. It's good for, like we've talked in the past, it's good for the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
In Grand Rapids, there's some good basketball out there. David Kuhl has his guys over at Hudsonville Unity. Those guys are running, ruling, they're doing what they're needing to do.
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
Yeah,
Cool
Zach,
with a K.
Yeah.
Zach Moore is averaging about 16 points and 8 rebounds a game. So
Okay.
that's a nice stat line for a kid that maybe not a lot of people talk about. When we got a lot of really good big guys in the state.
Right.
So just to be mentioned in the conversation with some of the best big guys is a feather in his cap.
No doubt about it. The main event on the program this weekend, we decided for the first time we were going to the gym at Roseville to cover a basketball game, and we've been doing state champs for 15 years. So it's exciting when all of a sudden that they're making some noise. We had kind of talked about them a few times here on Hang Time. Macomb Dakota, we had ranked 7th going into this one. We knew that it was going to be a tough road to hope for them to win. Roseville able to get it done at home, 63 to 56. Your impressions?
Hey, it was a pretty close game. Let's say this: Roseville, they brought their crowd. They were intense to start off. They wound up running a little bit of foul trouble. Just the entry of the game. I think Dakota, just having some experience over the last couple of years, it came out to the forefront and helped them. Just because those guys who were once freshmen and sophomores are now juniors and seniors, and they just seemed like a little bit more poised. Roseville settled down. Young Banks. I mean, kid's 5'10", 5'11".
They got a nice
4 threes. He had a great second quarter.
A nice backcourt. Darian Banks and Martell Turner. They're scrappy.
Right. And then I think the kid's name is Lizelle. He was really good. Let's say this, he was solid. And I think John Okamoto did a great job on the boards. Just definitely, as a rim protector. He had a block shot on Ryan Rollins. I think third quarter or something like that, where he
two-handed
he draped him. Yeah, draped him, caught it with two hands, and came down, and then he started pushing the ball. And I think that's one of the best things about watching John is he's got a really versatile game, and it's only like this kid is like
raw.
He's only
raw.
17
He's
years
raw
old,
talent,
but he can do
raw
something.
Power.
Yeah, and when he's 20 years old, and he might, let's say this, if he has to go to the junior college route, in 2 years, more than likely he's going to have a handful of MAC and Horizon schools, if not more than that, depending on where he goes around in the country. And I do know that a few of the top junior colleges in the country, as far as like Barton Community College, Gillette Community College, Indian Hills, Vincennes, those kind of schools have all been in contact with him. And so, we'll see where he winds up ending.
What's the ceiling with Roseville? I'm calling them the best team in Macomb County right now.
And I think it's helping them that they're in the red now, as opposed to the past.
Yep.
They beat Romeo Weems in New Haven. They beat De La Salle. They've beaten Dakota.
Yep.
So, who else in Macomb County can you put in that conversation with the best team in the county? Right now it's Roseville.
Yeah. Roseville is on top, and if you want to, I think De La Salle's on Common Road too. So to kind of look at that, I don't remember the last time we could actually say that where De La Salle wasn't even the best on the road.
So where do you think their ceiling is? Is this a team that can go to Breslin?
Possibly. I think that you still have a lot of the upper echelon teams. Let's say this. I think they need to come out with more poise, because if they fall behind to some of these teams. I'm talking about like definitely like a UD Jesuit, Cass Tech, and I think that they might have to go through different paths. But even if they have to go play through a Grand Blanc, a Clarkston, a Carmen Ainsworth, then I think that's where they kind of run into some problems, and they just have to lay off the Mountain Dew before the games, and they'll be fine.
Right.
Yes. If I could say it like that,
Yes.
But yeah, they just like, hey, get into a nice cold ice bath and stuff like that, and then come out, and
play within themselves,
and stick to the game plan. Now you got to realize that when you get into the playoffs, especially against some of these top level coaches who have won, and there are a lot of them in Michigan or that are still around, and then who also have good teams and experienced players. They know how to work the refs. They know how to, take advantage of somebody or a team's over aggressiveness. And I think that's one thing where, I like where Roseville's tempo is. They would fit in great with a lot of PSL teams, and I think that's sometimes where PSL teams get caught up as far as fouls.
And guard play is always going to keep you in games. You mentioned the two. Banks had 13 of his 16 points in the first half. Martell Turner 9 of his 15 in the fourth quarter. And as far as Dakota goes, I know that.
They still got Toko Magic,
right? And John Ukamadu, he got injured for a little bit. Is that correct?
Yeah,
at the end of the game. But I think he's gonna be all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
He missed the
actually. It was Ryan Rollins who who went down.
Rollins
went down.
Fourth
Okay,
quarter.
that was it. Okay.
Yeah, in the last minute.
Right,
Kind of like a
Rollins, that
free.
was
I mean,
right.
he was going in for a bucket. Kind of like a.
He had 18 in the game, Rollins.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Rollins he's a big dog. I mean, he's a real talent and a guy that is only a junior and is only getting better.
Yep.
And I could really see him, finishing strong this year and a kid that will, has already started to get Division I interest and it's only going to continue.
Well, Oakland assistant Tony Jones was there, and I know that Cleveland State offered because Lou Dawkins called me immediately after and wanted to know how bad is the injury.
Right.
I talked to Coach Toko earlier today, and he told me that he's going to get everything checked out, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be that serious. It might hold him out for a week or two, but one of those nagging injuries is kind of given Rollins problems over the years. Also, Michigan State assistant Dwayne Stevens was in the crowd last night too. So so it's good to have. Horizon offers, MAC interest, MAC offers. But then when you start getting some guys, from the Big Ten, from that upper echelon. And I also like to say, I thought Toko played some great defense. I think he had 3 steals in the first half, wound up like 5 or 6 steals.
Whatever school lands Mark Toko, for whatever sport it is, whether
Yeah.
it's football or basketball, is going to get themselves a real gem. Because this kid, maybe he's not good enough to play at Michigan State or good enough to play at Michigan, but when he finds his niche, he's going to. I predict him to be a star at an Albion or an Adrian. The type of
Which you're gonna leave out 10 Mile and Evergreen, 10 Mile
Lawrence
and
Tech.
LT.
I think
Come on, man, we got to do the daily plug.
He's the type. He's the type
weekly
of guy
plug.
that can come in and play point guard at that level or play quarterback at that level and really succeed. He's just
a gamer. He's
just a
winner.
winner. He's just a winner. Big heart. And a lot of big time potential, and the type of guy that when the lights are shining brightest, he's playing his best ball.
Yep.
I do want to say that a couple just big upsets from Tuesday. Harper Woods lost to Ecorse.
Wow.
Yep. 88-86, so by a bucket, but that was your Division II number 2 team. And your number 9 in Division III, Sanford Meridian, lost to Hemlock 60-51.
Yes.
So, again, that's what happens with weekly rankings. I do want to mention also that we'll have highlights on state champs from the Alpena area. So, a couple of road wins as Mayo beat Alcona. And Hillman had a 38-35 road win at Rogers City. So that will be on the show Sunday if you want to check out what's happening in that Alpena area. But before we go to break, let's quickly kind of get into your rankings. I know that, we asked you to do a Super 5. Yes. And we have a Super 5 that basically will be on our television side. And you kind of had Benton Harbor kind of right now, if you were to rank a number 1 of all the schools, regardless of division, they'd be number 1. But right now in Division 1, you've still got UD Jesuit as the leader in that. And that obviously coming off a big win over Catholic Central yesterday.
Yeah, the win on Tuesday night was huge. Jalen Thomas returns. They're winning without Jalen Thomas, and all of a sudden you add a 6'9".
Did Thomas play Tuesday?
Senior center, yeah.
Thomas played Tuesday.
Senior center, who now they have a rim protector. They have somebody who can go get a lot of rebounds to add. I know Daniel Friday has been playing, just being a stat.
Lights out.
Yeah, he scored 30 points on Tuesday night, 18 in the fourth quarter in their win over Catholic Central. And when you also add in that they're going to have Caleb Hunter.
Yeah.
When the transfers come through,
right.
Pat Donnelly's got them rolling.
Nice. Harper and Kalamazoo Central, you now have in the rankings.
Yep,
in Division I.
A Grand Blanc. Mike Thomas, his old stomping grounds, Kalamazoo Central, where he helped them led them to two back-to-back state titles to Grand Blanc down there. Back and forth affair, and the home team wound up sticking it out in the end. Last two, Kalamazoo Central wound up beating the former number 2 team by a couple points.
But really, when it comes to Division II, it's Benton and pretty much the state, as we mentioned.
The Scooby
it's
Show.
Benton Harbor and everybody else.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and now when we also get to talk about, let's say this. I think that 3 of the teams that were in Division II the last 3 years are going to be back again. And I'm talking about River Rouge. I'm talking about Benton Harbor and New Haven.
You mean teams that were playing up in the Final Four?
Teams that have been in the Final Four, and I think that 3 of them are going to return.
Right.
It is what it is. Chandler Park will more than likely have to play. They're more than likely going to have to play New Haven, I believe. And then also, but still got to worry about teams like Pontiac, and so New Haven doesn't have like the golden golden route. Their route is a little bit tougher. But Benton Harbor, to me, Carlos Johnson Scooby Johnson just makes everybody else on his team that much better.
He's a unicorn. He's a special player.
Things. Like he's got a knack for rebounding. I've heard people compare him to Draymond Green. Draymond Green isn't in his shape right now.
Right.
And people that remember Draymond in 2007, hey Lou, when he's the head coach over at Saginaw, he plays, they do scrimmages in shirts and, in shirts and skins, and make sure Draymond's got the shirts on,
Right.
And it's one of those things where, but he's just a really versatile player and makes a lot of guys better.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing and then they also have Justin Brown, who is also playing very well as a 2019.
Scooby's a unicorn,
senior.
just like Romeo Weems. I mean, if you're ranking the players in the state right now in terms of what they're doing as high school players as well as what they can do at the next level, it's Romeo 1 and it's Scooby 2.
And then finally, we'll just quickly touch on, talked about Super 5. We've got Flint Beecher, number 3 in the Super 5. Obviously, the clear heads and tails, number 1 in Division 3.
They got River Rouge this weekend. It should be
at the
high wattage matchup.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about that in our next segment. But I will, this is a team that three-peat, and they put 85 on Osborne. Tuesday and won by 34. This is a team that Edison kind of ran to the title that last year, but now it seems like Beecher is ready to go back on top.
Yeah, I as far as
Terry and Jalen Terry and Ernest Sanders
and
for a 1-2 punch.
And then you've got young Keon, who's only a sophomore, so that brings in another guard, and he plays fearless, and he's not afraid to make any shots or take any shots. And so when you have that many guys out there that are, let's say they've grown up around winning. They look at Monty Morris and stuff like they were 10 years old, 9 years old watching Monty Morris. And they're like, I want to be like that.
I want to be like man.
I want to be like man.
Well, you want to leave your legacy,
right?
And that's a hard mountain to climb right there. It's already here. So, I think these kids are going to be the real deal, and we'll talk about them a little bit more when we talk about the specific matchups in the Williams Classic. We're going to take our first timeout. When we come back, we're going to do the grab bag. We're talking about impact transfers and Scott's most underrated. So that is coming up. And again, we'll then touch a little bit on the MLK Horatio Williams tourney. So stay with us.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
Welcome back to State Champs HangTime Michigan. We are going to get into the grab bag, just a topic each for the boys, and we're going to talk about impact transfers. This is the time of year where if you were somebody who had transferred and you had to sit out, generally by the end of January, you can get back in the game. Who are some notables?
I think you start with the Catholic League. Obviously, we touched on Caleb Hunter earlier, who transferred over from Southfield Christian.
Won a state championship
last year. He's going to just give them an extra guard out there. Not only that, you give it somebody
at where?
else.
You didn't say where.
Excuse me, at the University of Detroit Jesuit.
There you go.
To go along with.
They're not good enough already.
Right. Well, to go along with Julian Dozier, they're going to be mighty quick in the backcourt.
Yeah.
Not big, but you've got two guys that are seniors. They've been there before. They've done a lot.
They're both the definition of cagey. They're smart. They beat you with their mind just as much as they beat you with their skills.
And they can also do a little bit of scoring from the outside, and they're going to have the opportunity to set up quite a few players on their team as well. Brother Rice, who I know we've talked about in the past, they've had kind of a little bit of a rocky road since they got into league play.
They have,
but they get a lot better. When they get Miko Stewart, who's another guard, gets the ball out of John Brantley's hand.
He was at Country Day last year. He started at Country Day as a freshman.
Okay.
Yep, and him being a sophomore now, and then Zach Maynard transferred over from Rochester Adams, and he'll give them some shooting and a little bit more size, about 6'3", and he'll be able to play on the wing. And
Yeah, they need some energy. You know, I mean,
they need Johnny Brantley needs some help.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and because Brantley's been playing. Yeah, Brantley's been playing pretty well. I saw him last Friday against. When they got destroyed by Detroit Jesuit, but he still had a solid game. Then we can kind of jump over.
Catholic Central's getting Josiah Smith.
Yep,
came over from a Division IV program at that youth time was Class D. Now,
hey man, put some respect on that name. What are you talking about, man?
Josiah
came over from Bloomfield Hills Roper.
Yeah, he came over from my alma mater, Roper, and he was the MVP of the MIAC last year. Averaged 18 points a game as a sophomore, and it'll be interesting to see how he adapts into the.
Need
playing
guard,
with the big boys.
They need guard play over there as well, and I think that Brandon Sanawi, the new coach, moving over from Novi, he needs that guard play, and not only that, Josiah's 6'2", almost 6'3", or something like that. Let's say this in another week, he could be 6'3", but he's definitely going to be able to help them. Muskegon, they get Jarvis Walker, who transferred over from Mona Shores, and they need some help because they're around 4-3 right now. They're still trying to find their balance, but one thing that
you had him number 1.
Yeah, and that's how it started. And these guys decided, and then Coach Guy decided to, take 2 weeks off after winning a state title or going to the making a title run.
Right.
Billy Roberts, their big guy, just got offered by Michigan State.
Just got football offer for Michigan State.
Yep. So and not only that, they've got some other guys who's going to Northwood. He's a 6'3", super athletic.
He's a high flyer, man. Yeah. Maybe the best dunker on the west side of the state
for sure. And so you got a lot of guys that they really need to start gelling together.
Yeah.
Because they do have some really good guys that Flip Carter. They've got some other guy, Deontay Torres. Who are also guys in the backcourt. But sometimes you need to be able to spread that ball. And Jarvis gives them a little bit more size at 6'2" and. Probably about 180, 190 pounds.
Well, the great thing about basketball, one or two players can completely flip the script.
Yeah.
You know
one
what
player
I mean?
can flip the
Yeah,
script.
one player can.
And I think one of those players.
But it's about chemistry.
Yes. And one of those guys who I think is really going to help, especially from the point guard position, is going to be Lucas Henderson, who's going to Ypsilanti.
Parlez-vous français?
Yeah. I talked to him the other day. I tell you what, I remember watching him in August, and he was my height, and now he's like 6'1", so he's been eating his American vegetables.
He's a Tony Parker.
He's still skinny.
He's a Tony Parker terror.
But he's taller than Tony Parker. And
I think he plays on the French national team.
He's on the French national team.
Yeah.
And so he's one of those guys where he's just real heady. And I think the most important thing about that is just having 5-6 months where he can hang out, be a kid, learn some lingo,
ingratiate himself into American culture.
And it's one of those things. What works over in France and stuff like that. If I'm going to do a backdoor cut, it might be a han-he, but instead, you could just go one of these, and I mean, you could get YBI and kind of throw up some hand signs and stuff like that. And
well, I'm sure he was at the Winter Jam and probably saw what happened in the third quarter. Was like, hey, we don't do that.
Right.
Keep it together, boys.
Right. No Jean Von Clapp for him.
Yes, exactly. But no, that's going to make them instantly better. And Coach Brooks had said, even when I saw him before the season or right at the beginning of the season, was like, wait till this kid is in our lineup. We are going to be another step closer.
I agree, 100%.
So. Okay, good stuff. All right, Scott loves to take on, like things like underrated or,
I love making lists and rankings.
You like lists, yes.
Shouting out kids, giving love to kids that don't always get the love that they deserve.
And people love that.
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about some of your most underrated.
Yeah, so on my blog right now that you can get at statechampsnetwork.com, Bernie's Bites, I do these, top 5 rankings that I call 5 for fighting, throw out 5 names and have you debate them.
Yeah.
So I did my top 5 most underrated players in the state right now. I got number 1, I got Caleb Bates from St. Clair Shores Lakeshore. I love this kid on the wing. He's a tsunami of swagger. He's the type of kid that, he grinds it out on the blocks. He can step back and hit threes. He can mid-range you. He can get out on the break and finish. He's a guy that's averaging, close to 25 points a game right now, and is a real a dark horse for the Mr. Basketball award, I think. Number 2, I got Josh Warren, by far the best player downriver right now, maybe the best player that the Downriver League has seen in a decade or so. He's over at Woodhaven, and he's a scoring machine out of the backcourt. Just explosive.
Yeah.
A type of guy that can just in a blink of an eye give you 30.
He can be their all-time leading scorer.
Yeah. Then I got Sirquavius Bell, another sleeper in the Mr. Basketball race from Bridgeport. He's a football star and a basketball star, and this is the type of kid that is a playmaker. Just gets it done on the floor. He outworks the competition. He's got a skill set that allows him to go inside and out. And he's a guy that just, is ferocious in the way that he attacks the rim. Similar to my number 4 player in Roseville, we talked about John Okamoto, who we
didn't really talk much about him. We just kind of mentioned him.
Both him and Sirquavius just raw.
He had an oop in the game.
Raw power. And they go after the rim like it stole something from their mom. I mean, they play angry,
right?
And that translates into the stat sheet.
Yeah.
I think both those guys have incredible upsides at the next level. Ukamadu, we talked about, might have to go the JUCO route, but he's being recruited by the real top-tier JUCOs.
Yep.
Sirquavius Ball, I'm not positive about what his recruiting status is right now.
I think he's got some a lot of Division II interest. And with football.
Yeah,
how all of a sudden
he's like 6'5", so he's like a Malik. He's like kind of a, dare I say, like a poor man's Malik Carr, but on the basketball floor it has more of a perimeter game than the Malik Carr.
Yeah, but he plays with a lot of energy. Yeah. You could tell that he's playing. He's
tireless motor.
His second best sport is in golf.
Yeah, tireless motor on Sirquavius Ball, and then finishing out a guy on the west side of the state that I really like, Jimmy Scholar from Grand Rapids. Forest Hill Central. He's a junior, and I think he's probably the most probably the best kept secret in the backcourt on the west side of the state. A guy that is just incredibly intelligent. He can shoot it. He can run a team and run an offense with you can match him up against any point guard in the state in terms of quarterbacking an offense. And he's just a gamer. He's a type of guy that I've never seen him not put out 150% energy, 150% effort, and then you add that to his skill set, and he's just a real difference maker.
Yeah, Jimmy's one of those guys where I remember watching him over the summer, and watching him over the spring and the summer, and his jumper has really improved, but he's got vision. He can drop dimes and make you look a lot better than. Let's say there's the average Joe. At the same time, his jumper, I think, is what's really propelled him. And I believe he's got offers from Grand Valley State as well as Ferris.
So,
if you're saving your parents' money on college tuition as a sophomore and a junior, more than likely that's going to translate to more opportunities. And 17 under in senior year.
All right, well, let's quickly get a little bit into, before we say goodbye to these guys, is talking about the Horatio Williams Foundation MLK Freedom Classic taking place this Saturday, January 19th. Always a fun tournament, it seems like, each and every year. This year is no different, going to be at Warren Fitzgerald. Yep. And they've got a girls' game right off the bat, Mumford and Detroit Edison. Detroit Edison has just been so unbelievable this season. If you want to see, just a really, really great girls' basketball team, you got to go check them out.
I mean, Rakia Jackson is the best player the state in the girls' basketball realm. Is the best player the state's had since Ariel Powers.
Yes,
and Ariel Powers is in the WNBA right now, playing for the Mystics.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say Peggy Evans.
Grosse Pointe.
Well,
North.
that's going
Grosse
back.
Pointe North, right? Ariel Powers.
Ariel Powers was Country Day.
Country Day. That's right.
All due respect to Destiny Pitts, who's at Minnesota right now, or Deja Church, who's at Michigan right now. I don't think they really can hold a candle to Rakia Jackson.
Right.
And what she does. There's a reason she's a top 5 player in the country.
So quickly, the rest of the games, the 1:45 is the Rester boys. Chandler Park in Macomb, Dakota. 3:30 is Detroit Western and Ann Arbor Huron. At 5 is Detroit Edison and De La Salle. At 6:30, another city Catholic clash between King and Clarkston. And then the game of the matchup, River Rouge and Flint Beecher, which may be the best true matchup that we've probably seen this season. That's at 8:30 p.m.
You've got 2 experienced coaches, vertically challenged, both of them, but they both won state titles.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a whole bunch of guys who have been there, who have been to the Breslin. They know what it is to play on the big stage. They're not going to get rattled by the crowd.
It's going to be packed, too.
They're not thinking about rankings.
Yeah,
right. The only thing that they're thinking about
bragging rights.
Well, it is, because they're in 2 different divisions. They're not going to face it. This is just, straight up. Who's the best?
Yeah,
and we've talked about who we feel is the best in the state right now, being Benton Harbor. These are 2 other teams that say, yo,
You got to
Right.
We still have a stake.
You got to bring your
in
neck
this.
braces for this thing because you're going to be going like this and this and this. And I mean, the pacing of this game is going to be, like a NASCAR race.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. But don't discount the Clarkson King.
I was just about to say that.
Two teams that are in the top 5, top 6 or whatever. I think I have Clarkson number 5 and King at 4.
And two teams that when we talk about Cass, Cass is in your Super 5, King's right there.
Yep.
And then you've got of course Clarkson, who was on the top of the mountain for so long it seems.
And I could have easily
and now they've proven that they are not going to go anywhere. They're going to play with everybody.
King's point guard Jordan Whitford, I could have easily put in my most underrated. I mean, for my dollar, he's probably the best point guard in the PSL.
Yeah.
Has a real good chance at winning Mr. PSL, and he's just the type of guy that he's such a great quarterback. For an offense, and every game he's dishing 7-8 assists, and he can score. He's improved his jump shot.
Yep. And I think that's the big key for him is just improving his jumper. When you have the opportunity to shoot a wide open jumper, you've got to take it. Otherwise, these guys are. If I'm on defense, man, this guy didn't take a wide open jumper. I mean, he got no confidence in himself. I got no confidence. I'm gonna slack off on defense. I can help out over here. But Jordan is definitely the key. And the reason
he's
why
the straw that stirs
Detroit
the drink for King
is where they are right now.
Omar Ziegler is a really nice sophomore.
Yeah, John Massey's coming along. I mean, they've got some other guys.
So we're going to have some good stuff to talk about next week on the podcast. We'll talk about the Freedom Classic again, January 19th at Warren Fitzgerald. It's a $10 admission. Again, I know for a fact we'll most likely be at least covering the final 3 games. I know you're going to be there. I know you're going to be there. I will be there definitely for the 8:30. But I think King Clarkson I'll probably be there before as well. So state champs will be represented. You should too. Thank you, TJ Kelley. Thank you, Scott Burnstein. Read Scott's blogs on our website, statechampsnetwork.com. TJ's rankings are up there, and they're updated every Monday. You can comment how much you disagree with them as much
Division
as you
3 looked pretty good, though.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, wow, this is like copy paste.
Absolutely. So Matt Maurer will be back. We'll talk a little girls hoops, and then of course our BCAM segment where we'll be talking with Coach Nizzy from Roseville. Awesome. So that's coming up in just a bit.
Coaching basketball is a rewarding and challenging pursuit, but you don't have to do it alone. The Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan are here to support you.
BCAM is the largest coaches association in the country with nearly 6,000 members representing college, high school, and middle school ranks. Members have access to drills, clinics, job opportunities, and it's the only way to vote for our annual awards, including Mr. and Miss Basketball.
Join today by visiting bcam.org because better coaching always matters.
Welcome back to State Champs HangTime Michigan. Of course, I mentioned at the top of the show we have an Indiana podcast now that is going on, so you can check that out. That's at our website, statechampsnetwork.com, on the State Champs Indiana social media. Obviously, the Hoosier State, a big hoops state.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it's about as big as it gets. So Matt Maurer is here, managing editor at statechampsnetwork.com, and he is our girls beat writer and takes care of the rankings for us and is very invested in everything happening in girls hoops, and you have for years. It's not like this is anything new for you.
No.
Yes, exactly. So talk about quickly, kind of your rankings for this week. What's news?
Not a lot so far. I mean, it's kind of a quiet week simply because a lot of teams, a lot of the ranked matchups are going to be this Saturday. There's a Martin Luther King Day tournament at Arbor Prep. So we're going to see some movement later in the week. But as of right now, there's really only been one matchup between teams that are actually in the top 10 rankings, and that was Carman Ainsworth playing Country Day. Carman Ainsworth came out with a 5-point win over Country Day, leaving Country Day right at 500 on the season. And I know people have mentioned, why are they still in the rankings at this point? Well, they've lost to the number 1 team in D4, the number 1 team in D2, the number 2 team in D1, and the number 8 team in D1. That's 4 of their 5 losses.
Right.
The other one is to a ranked team in Ohio. So, I mean, they're playing a murderous schedule.
Right.
And yes, they're not as deep as they have been in the past. And yes, this is a different era, so that's kind of why they're down at the bottom of the rankings. But it's still a pretty good team.
Yes,
so
no question.
That's one of the reasons they're still in it. And like I said, we'll have some more ranked matchups later in the week. I think probably the biggest kind of measuring stick games we had on Tuesday we had Brighton and Heartland playing off in the
bunch
Livingston
of honorable
County.
mentions.
Yep, honorable mentions. Yep.
Yes.
And with Heartland, we knew that they were going to be good once they got everybody back and healthy. And we had the segment obviously last week with Coach, and we knew how good they were going to be. Brighton, if they were any behind, they were not far behind,
right.
And they proved last night that they're right there. They also have a pretty good big in Sophie Zekin, who is committed to Bowling Green, and they kind of took control of the KLA West with a win last night. Now, obviously, they have to play again before the tournament, and then you were out at another one with Saline and Pioneer, and that SEC Red is going to be interesting because there are some, Saline had a perfect record up until last night. Pioneer only had the one loss, and then Huron is another team that's played a really murderous schedule and have a kind of a 500-ish record at this point too. They're going to be right in the conversation too, so it's going to be interesting to watch how that plays out.
Yeah. Washtenaw County, I would say, is looking good right now, and it's definitely on the boys' side as well.
Sure.
With what we saw Skyline do last
Yep.
year, and Pioneer is a team that I think is still a force to be reckoned with, just because of their guard play and that. Pioneer is just one of the teams, as well as so many other in the state right now, of where you've got freshmen making immediate impacts.
And Pioneer's going to be an interesting transition next year. They're going to graduate 6 seniors, including their big Asaria Turman, who's just going to go cross town to Concordia, so she's not going far for college.
That's right.
But there's not going to be a huge dip for them, I don't think, because as you mentioned, 3 talented freshmen on the roster. I saw them a month or so ago against a very good Hazlitt team.
Right.
Mind you, it would have been a different game if Hazlitt had their big Amania Baker. She was out for the game. She's still coming back from a knee injury. So that would have been a real good big-on-big matchup. They kind of controlled that game, too, with their inside presence.
And they press.
Yeah.
They've got a difficult press.
Not only do they have Turman in the middle, but they also have a very talented 6'1" freshman in Davi Matthews. And then they've got a couple of guards in Lauren DeWolf, a point guard, who, when I saw them, she was starting. I don't know what the starting situation is now.
Right.
And then Maya Hicks, another guard, who was the first player off the bench when I saw them.
They all played last night. Or Tuesday, I should say, and played well.
Sure, and that's a very talented core that they're going to be able to build around for the next couple of years as they kind of transition from this big senior class to what looks like it's a big freshman class.
And this is happening elsewhere.
Oh yeah, it's not.
What's up with the freshmen?
Well, there are a lot of them, and we mentioned Heartland a minute ago. Heartland has kind of had to use their big freshman class with Amanda Roach and Gracie Metz and Lauren Solom to keep kind of afloat while they were waiting for Whitney Solom, their junior, their star 6'4" kid in the middle, to get healthy from her own knee surgery. So that kind of kept them afloat. We mentioned early on in the season that Detroit Edison has enough talent that they basically have a separate freshman team,
correct,
their black team, that is playing a varsity schedule, and they've got 2 just absolute stars at the top of that in Ruby Whitehorn, who is probably one of the top 1 or 2 freshmen in the state, and Rakaya Beal, who is very good in her own right. These are going to be the kids who come in over the next couple of years and kind of make their mark on varsity once some of the established stars that Edison has kind of move on down the road. I went out to see Corona unbeaten the other night, and they've got a very talented veteran core. They started 4 seniors. The other person that started with them is freshman forward Ellie Toney, who has kind of been a difference maker because she gives them kind of a 1-2 punch in the middle with Mariah Duncan. And then you've got a team like Howell just down the road from Heartland and Brighton. It's kind of in a rebuild mode, but they've got a Maeve St. John who is fresh off being a star in middle school, right onto the varsity and right into the starting lineup. Williamston's got a guard, Kaylee Douglas, and then of course there's probably the most talented freshman in the state in Maya Petticord, who is kind of leading the youth movement as Ipsy Arbor Prep kind of rebuilds from their recent run of state finals appearances.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate that. We're going to take another timeout when we come back on. By the way, you can see highlights of the Saline Pioneer game on our social media, on our website, as well as the highlights on Sunday at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit on the State Champs High School Sports Show television program. We're going to take another timeout. When we come back, it's our BCAM segment. We're going to chat with Roseville boys head coach. Speaking of highlights you can check on State Champs, we'll have highlights of that matchup in their win versus Macomb Dakota on Tuesday. Matt was there. His article up at statechampsnetwork.com right now on that matchup. Head coach Hassan Nizam will be joining us next here on HangTime.
So, I got my start in officiating when a friend told me I should try it. At first, I just did basketball, and I got hooked. Before long, I added baseball, softball, football, and volleyball. I really enjoy giving back to the game, working with kids, and working with my local association to recruit and train new officials. I would like to say to anybody that officiating is a great way to help kids and stay connected to the game. We always need new officials. There's help wanted, just listen.
And you guys are a lot different, okay? You're tough, you're resilient, you're talented, you're physical, you're gritty, you're together, and that's why you've earned the right to compete for a championship essentially tonight.
Welcome back to State Champs HangTime Michigan. This is the BCAM segment. The executive director of the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan, Dan Young, is here in the house. How you doing, Dan?
Great. Thanks
Matt Mowry back with us, and we have got Coach Niz. So Hassan Nizam, the head coach at Roseville. Roseville is rolling. They are on the map, and they are in our main event this year, or this week, on State Champs, which will air Sunday at 9 a.m. On Fox Sports Detroit. Big game this week against Macomb Dakota. We had Dakota ranked 7th, coach, coming into this particular contest. Obviously, the community showed up. You guys had a great crowd last night, and your team showed up. So kind of just talk about, the game right off the bat, in that you were able to win 63-56.
Oh, well, first off, I'd say, thank you for having me, man. I was really looking forward to this when you guys told me you're going to have me on, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, where are you?
Thank you for covering the game last night.
Where are you?
I'm right outside. I'm right outside the school right now. My assistant's running practice for a minute while I'm with you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so just in regards to last night's game, man, it was a crazy atmosphere. We got into foul trouble early, had 3 stars with 2 fouls, so it was tough. We weren't able to stick with the initial game plan we had, so we had to do some different things, play some different guys in different spots. But I thought credit to our kids, man, they just took control the whole entire game. I thought once we got the lead, Dakota kind of chipped into us a little bit, but we got enough stops. The game goes on to give ourselves a chance to make some free throws at the end and put it away.
Matt Mowry, you were at the game covering it for State Champs. What were your impressions on how Roseville played?
Well, one of the things that Coach mentioned is they got in some foul trouble early, and they were able to kind of overcome that. Hey, Coach, talk a little bit about the difference maybe this year versus last year in the defensive intensity. I know that was one of the things you mentioned last night, that you guys are really taking pride in playing some tougher defense, and that really down the stretch in the second half seemed to be key.
Last year, the biggest thing with last year is we relied on the 3 ball a little bit too much. So we weren't that good of a defensive transition team, whereas this year we got a couple post players who could play, so we've been really feeding the ball inside, and our guards been having that attack mentality. So, really, we're holding teams to 44 points a game, and Dakota scored 55 yesterday, or 54, but I thought, defensively, we've been on a whole different level this year. Just when you got a kid like Ukamato, 6'7", behind you, it allows you to take a step up and be a little bit more confident guarding the basketball. So I think his impact down there has been good, but just being a little deeper this year, too, we're allowed to play. We could give our guys a breather here and there, which allows us to get after it more and press more and play a little bit more with pace.
Sure.
We're talking with Roseville head coach Hassan Nizam. And, Coach, I know you went to Dearborn Forge and graduated in 2012, so you're not that long out of high school,
Yeah.
And yet instantly you are just attracted to coaching, right? I mean, Dan, this is a dream for BCAM, right? That
you are,
who wants to get into the game immediately.
You're a rising star, and we're lucky to have you. And hopefully, you will continue to motivate and instill the all the discipline into the kids. And we've just heard a lot of great things about you. So we're looking forward to checking it out as the season goes on, and then for many years to come.
And you were hired a couple years ago, right, at Roseville now, right? 2017, I think.
Yep. It's May of 2017.
Okay.
So
and I know that there were, I guess from what I read, there were like 50 applicants or something for the job. Like there were a lot, and here they took a chance on this young guy. What do you think was the reason that they decided to go with you?
When I first applied for that job, I was an assistant coach at U of M Dearborn, and I was, trying to get my foot back in the door high school, trying to get a head coaching job. And the Roseville job was appealing, it being a Class A school in a pretty good area was, So I think what turned the tide for me is Roseville did something unique in the interview process. Is the third interview that we went to was an on-court demonstration.
Perfect.
And we had players from the team, and each coach was able to run a 4-man workout, and the kids were essentially a part of the committee and had some say. So, I asked the kids after the fact, hey, what did you guys, and all the kids said, Coach, we loved your energy when you came in. You were teaching us everything. Every time we made a mistake, you were correcting us. So I think my opportunity to work with the kids in front of the committee, I think it took age out of the equation at that point.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good to hear. We're going to pass that one on to the committee of hiring coaches. That is really, and that'd be a teaching interview. When you go to teach and it comes down to the final two, normally you're asked to teach a lesson. But to have the players a part of that and get a feel, you can't fool the players. They know if you know what's going on. So that's great. It's great to hear.
Yeah, and you're obviously taking a break right here from practice right now to be here with us, and we appreciate it. I guess just before we let you go, just quickly, what is your kind of what's your feeling since you're a young guy in the game right now, and basketball is always. It's got its ebbs and flows, its ups and downs. It's good and and things that we need to work on. Obviously, we want to keep kids in the state. That's one of the things that we want to do right away is to keep them in that high school experience. What's your thoughts on the game right now?
I think the game's in good standing. I mean, there's competitive basketball throughout the state. I think three major issues that everybody hits on is one, maybe the implementation of a shot clock. Two, maybe seeding the bracket to make it a little bit more competitive as time goes by. And three, just maybe the MHSAA being less strict with some of the rules, so maybe we could try to keep some of that top talent in the state. Because really all those guys are chasing is playing in higher level games against higher level players.
Right.
So maybe if we just get rid of the travel rule and we give the best of the best the opportunity to go play against the best of the best. And like Cass Tech versus King, and I know I don't want to get off context, but Cass versus King football game, that game should be played on ESPN.
Right.
So that would be my only thing, maybe just trying to get the kids a little bit more exposure. But I think there's no excuses, though. With AAU and social media, if you could play, and they're going to find you. So as long as coaches we stick to developing our players and as coaches, we can't be November to March coaches. That's what I tell my kids all the time. I'm not going to coach you from November to March. We're going to put more work in the off season than we probably do during the season. So from a coaching standpoint, as long as us coaches keep working and keep building the fundamentals with these kids, I think the state will be in good shape for years to come.
Love it.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, and you like the shot clock.
I love it. I wish, because teams try to slow it down on us and have 1 minute possessions, so I hate it.
Right. We talked about that last week, actually. And so
the better your team, the more you want the clock. The worse your team, probably the more you don't want the clock.
Would you think because we want to kind of start these movements? I think we kind of came to the idea that we thought 35 might be kind of the best number to work with.
I think 35 is a good number to work with. Okay. And the way I look at it is this: when like he said, the better teams want a shot clock because we could come press you for 10, 15 seconds. Now you got to have to figure something out, and you only have 15, 20 seconds to do so, rather than coming down and playing for a minute. But hey, at the end of the day, no excuses. It's been like that for 100 years, and we got to find ways to speed up the game if that's what we want to do without the shot clock. So.
Right. Absolutely. And Coach Young, why don't you mention real quickly we do it on TV and we'll do it here, the registration deadline coming up for the BCAM members.
Yes, BCAM's registration deadline is February 15th. So we're in a mad rush at this point. We're doing great. We're right about where we were, but now we're reaching out to our regional directors to then reach out to our schools. Amy Heidenberg, our administrative assistant, and myself have written emails to all the sent letters to all the athletic directors in the state, both college and high school, and said you're a member or you're not a member. So we're really working hard at it, but it's getting close. We're getting into the final 3.5 weeks till the deadline's over, and then all the awards start happening and nominations for Reaching Higher and Coach of the Year. Those types of things will be coming down the way. So very impressed with you, Coach. It was great having you on today.
I appreciate it.
You're a high riser, man. Keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you guys do for the game in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, right on. And we thank you. Remember, we'll have the main event. We'll have highlights of Roseville. Got to check out what's happening with the Panthers right now as they took on Dakota on Tuesday. You can watch that on State Champs on our social media and as well as on Fox Sports Detroit Sunday at 9 a.m. Coach, we'll let you get back to practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Thank you again for having me.
All right, guys, and we will see you next week on